I wanted, you know, I wanted everybody to have, I wanted people to bring their animals here and have an experience. I wanted them to, when they walk through the door, just feel like this is their place and that their pets are comfortable here. And it's, more than just a vet practice. This is a group of people who are dedicated to giving their pet, top-notch, excellent care and giving them an excellent experience.
I would prefer, I think that's appropriate if Michelle's here.
Listening to all of the ideas that other people had for the Village Vets project, the first inspiration for the design that came into my mind was a visit that I had taken to Paley Park, one of my favorite spaces in New York City.
Fifth Avenue and 53rd Street, and it's coming up out of the station and going to Paley Park, one of my favorite places in New York. One of the amazing things about Paley Park is the way that it deals with the kind of cacophony and chaos of the city. It really creates a place of peace and sanctuary.
For me, on the Village Vets project, this was really the starting point. What was so beautiful about that space is it had a waterfall, and it was a very calming space, a beautiful space that really gave you a sense of respite and refuge in the urban chaos.
One of the great things about this space that I've always thought was remarkable is the sense of light and proportion. You can see these kind of English box hedges that have been created by these landscape architects, Diane and Green. And you can notice how what happens is it introduces nature into the city. And the waterfall in the background there is just such a beautiful proportion, both the texture of the water and the way the light catches it, and then the sound.
I wanted to create a space for the Village Vets project that had an inspired courtyard, something that remembered Paley Park but created something completely new. Giving back an urban space to Decatur what Mr. Paley has given to the city of New York. With the courtyard issue, I wanted it to be this place you would discover and you'd walk in and see that, kind of like Fisher talked about it as the pockets of Decatur, the nooks and crannies of Decatur, right?
Yeah, right.
That you just discover that place, and it would be a place of kind of sanctum and quiet, and would really extend the two lobbies out into an exterior space. We tried a bunch of different schemes. There was another scheme that we had to do where we were asked by the client to reverse the building and hold it to the property line here.
My idea was to ditch the courtyard and have the other side of the building basically be like a drive-up entrance that you might find at like DeKalb Medical Center or something like that. And I just said, I think that'll just be easier. People can just pull up with their animals.
But what we didn't like about that was that the southern sun then hit the courtyard and it wasn't protected anymore.
Tim and Bill are pushing like hell to keep the courtyard, and I, and maybe Fisher to some degree, but more I, was going, I just don't know, guys. I just don't think we can make it work. At this point, I'm glad Bill won the battle. I don't think Bill won the battle. Bill, he helped get us to the right decision. But it was a fairly contentious. That was a tough one.
And then we arrived at the final scheme, which was the hard urban edge, the west elevation, which filtered the light from the street, the circulation emerged here that connected all 3 floors, and this was an enclosed tower made of brick. And then the courtyard, and then the open stair. And this was a very nurturing or nurtured kind of space. This collected people as you parked in the back. It also provided a nice sense of sanctuary from the street because you saw a view all the way through here and glimpses into this courtyard. There's one room in the project that I feel is really important to just talk about, and that's the chapel. And we were trying to make an urban space that was inspired originally by Paley Park, and this was the chapel. And we really didn't have, before that, we didn't know of a vet clinic that had a chapel. We really just asked them about how they euthanized animals, and that became the kind of core of the whole project. Let's see, Stacy had talked about how hard it was for a family to let go of an animal. Because really, let's face it, they become part of our families, right? And so what happened was she was saying that it was really awkward because those people had to let go of their animal in an exam room in a kind of clinical way, you know, a way that was cold, and then they had to walk out into the lobby and walk by people, and they didn't want to see people. She was talking about their emotions after they lost an animal, and that's one of the great things about the Village Vets is that when an animal dies, that's something that's really important to them to help the family through that. So in this case, they talked about having some kind of space that would honor that moment or that emotion. And so I thought, why don't we have a chapel? And so really, you'll notice the whole project is designed around that chapel, which is right off the main courtyard space, the kind of urban space of the project. And there's a long pool of water there where the light will bounce off that water and into the ceiling of the chapel, and it'll kind of be a dappled light, very delicate ambient light. And what will happen in that space, I think, is really, really important. They might have some meetings in there, they might use it as an exam room, but when an animal does die, that place is designed to honor that process of losing and letting go, that natural process of losing and letting go of an animal. You'll notice that there's a long bench that's designed there for the family to sit and say goodbye, and then there's a door that leads you out to that courtyard, and you don't go through the lobby anymore. You don't have to see people. You just walk out the courtyard and walk out to your car, and